Hi, this is Rich Coles from Productive. So this video is a tip on a little workaround which I came up with today on the back of a question I was asked by a client about how can we have indentation or hierarchy showing in reports. Now this is a really common question which we get asked a lot, and it's a bit of a frustration for a number of people in that you have this hierarchy that you can see in your project plans or your schedules, but you lose that when you bring it into reports and everything's flat. So I had a little think about it and said, no, you can't do it. I thought, like anything, what's the outcome you're trying to achieve here? And this is how I approach many things when I build in Smartsheet, is what is it that they're trying to achieve, and is seeing the impact in that visual cue. So I thought, well, no, you can't, but you can visually do that. So let me show you what I did as a bit of a tip, and we'll include the formula so you can go and recreate it if you like this, or you can come up with a better way. And please do share your better results if you can see, and this inspires you to come up with alternative solutions as well. Again, as a reminder, at Productive, we love coming up with solutions to help people get more out of Smartsheet, to unlock that potential within your organizations and within yourselves, and sharing these ideas as well. And you might have seen the podcast that we're doing. Again, it's all like sharing within the community what can be done to help people achieve more. So, without further ado, let's dive in. So here I've got what I call my summary schedule. This is the plan on the page, as I might call it. So I pull this from the overall time plan that I might have on a project here. So this is within an overall project asset I've got. I close this panel at the side, and you can see that within the project, I've got all the indentation that's going down in terms of the hierarchy. And what I've done is I've added an extra column. So let's come back to that in a moment. But what you see on the screen here is this is what a report's going to look like when you lose the hierarchy, because unfortunately when it goes into a report, you lose all that hierarchy and you can't see the twisties, the little kind of plus or minus signs to expand or collapse the data as well, because it just comes through. So a bit frustrating. Now you can have conditional formatting which have different colors. So in this particular plan, I've got it set so that depending on the level, things are set at different colors. And so there's different meanings within that particular plan. Now, if I move forwards though, you don't have the indentation. So what I looked at was an alternative to this. Is if I scroll down, what I've done is I thought, well, hang on a second, but let's just recreate that in a bit of a way. And so the top level is just at the same indent as before. And then for each level, and I'll talk about this in a moment, I've just put an indentation of 1, 2, 3 chevrons, as you can see, which just makes it visually, you can see what's the relative level of that item to the items above. I did try this with spaces only, and unfortunately the spaces didn't come through. I tried it with lines and dots. Of the things I've tried thus far, I think this chevron is the best. I'd love to see examples of what people come up with. I tried emojis as well, and emojis can be fun, but this seems to be looking best, and I like the fact that you can have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 chevrons, which really, visually, you immediately see how many layers you're going in. So how am I achieving this? Let's go to the schedule itself. So I've got the primary column here, which is where the task name is. And what I did is I created an additional column called task name, and I just put a little asterisk after the task name, just so I know it's another one I've done. And in here, I have created a column formula. I love column formulas, as people probably know. And I've got video column formulas if you don't know what I mean by column formula. And in here, I've got this funky formula. And I've got an additional helper column before, so I'll come back to this in a moment. So what I'm telling it to do is look at what level the item is in terms of the task, and relative to that, add in the number of chevrons relative to the level it's at. Now, in all my plans, one of my favorite columns, which I always do when I've got hierarchies, I've got my level column. Now, this is set for parents only. I've got a separate video on this level one, and I always use this for all my conditional formatting. If you just go in terms of level, etc., these are the colors I've got set on this plan for that conditional formatting. So coming out, I do that to make the plans visually easy to navigate. Again, you can see the separate video there. But in this one, I've got a different formula. So so you understand, this formula in here is count children, count ancestors. So that formula. Now, what I've done in this other formula column is I've got level, and I've called it level star, in this case, just to differentiate it. and I've used a slightly different formula. And that formula here is count ancestors. And that's it. Really simple. And what it does is it just says, does this item have any ancestors, yes or no? And so that tells you its relative level in the plan. There's a difference on when and why I use these two. Typically, I want to be clear, does something have a child or not? Or is it a task? So this is why I'll typically use this one. Separate video, I won't go into too much, but bottom line is, have this level star column or whatever you want to call it, which is just counts how many ancestors, and therefore you know what level it's at. So with that in place, then you go to this task name star column, and the formula I've done here, let me just talk you through it, is in effect, what I'm saying is if the level star is 0, then just give us the task name because there's nothing that needs to go after it. But if it's level 1, then add 1 chevron and then the task name. Here, let me just zoom out a bit. We've lost it. Okay. And just click to, sorry, I'm zoomed in and so this is going a bit strange. Here we go. Let's just go back to edit column formula. Okay. So if it's level 1, just add in 1 chevron and a space. If it's level 2, 2 chevrons and a space, and the task name, level 3, etc., etc. So what it does, therefore, is it goes, oh, this one is level 2. So I'm going to add in 2 chevrons and a space, and then I'm going to put the name here. Once you've got this task name column, you can go to your summary schedule, and what you'll see in this particular one is if I go unhide all columns, I have to have the primary column. So I've got the primary column and you can see none of it's indented. But what I've done is I've created this new column called task name with a star, and you can see the indentation coming in here. So you can compare these two. And because it's for a summary schedule, I do not need the primary column. What you will find is if you are using this kind of report where you're grouping at all, that will force you to have the primary column. So this isn't going to work very well in those instances. So probably best not to, because it's going to look a bit strange. But if you're not using the primary column at all, then hey, you can just hide it. There we go. So off you go, hide, and then you can have this one and the indentation and do whatever works for you. But that's the idea. So literally all I'm doing in this case, and just so you know, I've done previous videos on how I do my summary sheet or plan on a page. And I've got a column there, which is historically I used to call it POA, plan on a page, is checked. In this case, I've changed it more recently to be if the summary schedule is checked. Just go back to the plan. You can see in here, summary schedule. That's how I'm filtering things coming to the report. You can then see the hierarchy. The filter works. That's checked. It comes into here. And hey presto, I've got the column with the chevrons. That comes through. Once I've got this report, I can then drop it into the dashboard. So this is what it looked like before. This is what it looks like with the chevrons. And if that's easier for people to navigate, I'll use whatever works for the people who want to navigate it. It's about them, not about me. And if they even prefer it without any of the formatting, etc., because those colors, okay, Rich, why have you got all these different colors here? There's a reason. But if you choose to, then you can also, as you all know, or if you don't, you can also remove the formatting in the dashboard as well. So just going to click save, come back out. So you've got various choices, but you can see even without any formatting, okay, this is what the indentation starts looking like on things like this. All sorts of different things you can do when you start playing around and thinking around it. Purely an idea I wanted to put out there and share with people. Always like coming up with different solutions on how you can solve challenges. Think with the end in mind is visually, how can I see the hierarchy? Well, here you go. Here's a little way to see the hierarchy. So I'd love to hear how people get on with this and what better iconography or items you use to mark the indentation. Let me know and I'll share another video with improved versions. So thanks for watching and bye for now.